If I told you I signed Pedro Gonçalves for just under €4 million and 20k per week, you'd call me a liar. Yet here he is, en route to breaking Famalicão's record for most assists in a season.
Be honest.
I am being honest.
João Pedro Gonçalves might not be the Pedro Gonçalves, but the former Benfica youngster, who had 19 goal contributions in the Liga Portugal the season prior, was without doubt an exciting signing. He was not, however, what you'd call a high-profile signing. If we wanted to challenge for a league title this season, can we find the necessary quality while sticking to a Moneyball approach? Welcome to the Moneyball Clinic, where I'll be using in-game performance data to analyse the squad, create a simple tactic, and suggest practical transfer targets. I've been in charge for 3 full seasons, and in that time we've been remarkably consistent, 79, 82, and 82 points. But if we want to truly challenge for a title, we need to find another 7 to 10 points, and that's going to be difficult. In the last episode, we took a deeper look into our finances and established that even with a modest 150k per week wage budget, we still needed to sell to break even. But we can now feel confident of Champions League participation. With that factored in, it gives us about 23 million per annum to spend on wages. Now, we spent roughly 11 million last season, with around 40% of that coming from bonuses. If we double our wage spend, that would come to 22 million, which is pretty much bang on the projection. That'd be around 300k per week. We also have 134 million just sitting in the bank, so we've got a little bit of leeway if needs be. But if we start handing out all that cash to new signings, you can be sure as hell we're going to upset the incumbent players. So let's deal with them first. Those who signed contracts in the last 12 months, be that new arrivals or extensions, we'll discard. That leaves us with 12 players, but we can trim it down further. Rafael Alves is our emergency goalkeeper, and he'll be allowed to leave at the end of next season. Max Padilla dropped off a cliff, and he'll be leaving on a free this summer. Thiago Menezes hasn't impressed, so no contract extension is planned. And Jean de Cadiz showed signs of decline, so we'll see how the season goes before making a decision. That leaves us with just 8 players to sound out about new deals. Ricardo Silva is a dependable backup. He wants to double his wages, but 3k isn't exactly unreasonable, so a new 4-year deal has gone his way. Richie Ellie is our captain, but lost his starting spot. That makes his demands a little unpalatable, so we've sold him to Crystal Palace for €8.75 million. Tomas Domingos' wage demands are far more realistic, his playing time expectations less so he's gone to Espanyol for 2.7 million. Martin Ferreira's done well in relief, and his salary request is fair, extended for another 4 years. A similar story for Aldo Maiz. Yes, it's triple what he's currently earning, but still very much club friendly. Another 4-year contract given. Gustavo Sá has become a key starter for us, which makes his demands an absolute bargain, the easiest contract decision ever. Pablo Felipe has leverage as a homegrown player, but doesn't want to exercise it. Reasonable demands equals a new 4-year contract. Felipe Fonseca's expectations are around the same amount, but the outcome is pretty much the same. New deal signed. Those new contracts added 11k to our wage commitments. That's less than I expected. In fact, with the 3 outgoings, we've actually saved money. Of course, those players need to be replaced, and if we can do so for less than 100k per week, then we still have some money spare for further contract extensions down the line. So here's the squad planner. We need a right back, a centre back, and a left back. I've also sent Thiago Menezes and Felipe Fonseca out on loan, so I'd like 2 new wingers too. Of course, you already know that João Pedro Gonçalves is one of them. Now, you've heard me say this before. Moneyball is the use of data to identify players undervalued by the market. So let's take a look at the elite players in FM who we're trying to replicate on the cheap. Somewhat shockingly, Diogo Dalot is our archetypal right back. A strong tackler who is safe on the ball and doesn't dribble much, but still creates from wide. Danny Vivian represents the ideal centre-back, a defender who wins both his aerial and ground duels and who is safe in his distribution. At left-back, I'm looking for our version of Remy Bensebaini, a good tackler, progressive, and once again safe on the ball. Now on the wing, I want an Ousmane Dembele, a dribbly creator who can also score and apply pressure. If we can find players with a similar output, playing at the same level as the Liga Portugal, then great. But realistically, we're probably looking at players at a slightly lower level, but with a higher output. Players like Hugo Oliveira. In Liga dos, his season was cut short by injury, but he played just enough to make a judgment. His 46.5k minimum fee release clause makes him a low-risk acquisition. He's unlikely to be a starter, but as long as he contributes when he's on the pitch, that'd be grand. Next, Valente Pirani. The Belgrano youngster's been on our radar for a couple of years, and his 10k per week wage demands are quite palatable. He arrives for 2.5 million. Again, likely to be a squad player, but there is a starting job available if he plays well. Hugo Bueno is currently in the Championship with Bolton, but he brings Premier League experience with him for 6.25 million euros and 26.5k per week. That pedigree brings high expectations that he will play a key part in getting the ball forwards. Then there's Carlos Borges. He played fewer minutes than I would like, but he's playing at a comparable level to the Liga Portugal and showing very encouraging signs, such that I'm happy to spend 6.5 million euros and put him on 35k per week. It's a risk, and one that will ultimately be judged on attacking output. We want him to be dribbly and creative, but he will also need to provide a goal-scoring threat. So that's 5 players in for 19 million euros and 92.5k per week in wages. It's the first time we've spent more than we received, and it's made absolutely zero difference to the pre-season prediction. Before we continue, let's go over the tactic. It's a balanced mentality. We play wide, at a high tempo, and ask our right wing-back to overlap. We whip crosses in for the imperious Jean de Cadiz. In transition, we counter, and we roll the ball out for our defenders to launch it forwards. Out of possession, it's an aggressive low block, pressing and hard tackling whilst funneling play outside. The 4-3-3 is used against difficult opposition, switching to a 4-2-3-1 for easier matchups. All that remains is to play the game. Here's how it works. All responsibilities have been delegated except those pertaining to transfers and tactics. I holiday between games, pick the starting lineup, then hit instant result. If we're going to win the title, we need to beat the teams in and around us. An opening day away trip to Sporting is a chance to put down a marker, and put down a marker we did. Pablo Felipe's 96th minute goal rounding off a 3-0 win. Braga were up next, and an early penalty set us on our way before Lucas Taibo proved our continued effectiveness from set pieces. Scheduling meant Porto were the only other big team we played in the first half of the season. Thales and Almeida's brace, either side of Demiral's header, gave us a deserved win. At the halfway point, we were top of the table, with just one draw to our name against relegation candidates Academico. But we can't have everything go our way. Marseille triggered Joan Garcia's minimum fee release clause, so we replaced him with Udinese new-gen Alexandru Tanasa, 6.75 million euros, 28.5k per week. Until he arrived, Ricardo Silva was the starter, and there was little he could do about Konstantinos Mavropanos' equaliser for Benfica. Same could be said for Alexis Salamaker's opening goal for Sporting, but this time it was our turn for a set-piece equaliser. Those 4 points dropped soon became 7. Carlos Borges' red card was the catalyst for Benfica to absolutely dismantle us en route to a 3-0 win. We did, however, complete the double over Braga. Thales and Almeida's gather touch was delightful. Sosa's consolation effort wonderful. But it was deflections that made the difference in a 3-1 win. Defeats away against Portimonense and Gil Vicente surely all but ended our chance of a title. At least that's what you'd think. With one game remaining, we are tied at the top with Benfica. They own the head-to-head, so not only do we need to pick up points at Porto, we need to better Benfica's result against Chaves. But before that, let's update you on our cup progress. Our first chance of a trophy was the Supertaça against Benfica. Those hopes didn't last long as Jared Bowen and Heung-min Son scored the only goals. An Allianz Cup final against Porto started in similar fashion, Pepe and Galeno putting Porto 2-0 up at half-time. With 3 minutes remaining, Gustavo Assunção halved the deficit, but too little too late. For the second season running, we reached the round of 16 in the Champions League, where we faced Paris Saint-Germain. Thaleson Almeida's 77th minute strike gave us a slither of hope after the first leg, but João Marques' red card, swiftly followed by a Musiala strike, condemned us to our exit. Just one cup remains, a chance to defend our Taça de Portugal title against Benfica. It was a poor game, settled by Struijk's 84th minute own goal, and that's our second ever trophy. That's great, but the league is what matters. The Estádio de Dragão has not treated us well in this save. Pepe's 14th minute opener looks to extend a 3-game winless run in the league. We have scored in all those games though, which continued with Thaleson Almeida credited with the equaliser. Parity lasted barely 5 minutes. Another throw-in, Evan Nilsson giving Porto the lead before half-time. We needed heroes like summer arrival Carlos Borges. His curling effort levelled the tie in the 58th minute. 8 minutes later, he stole the ball on the halfway line but couldn't hit the target. In the 84th minute, Mendez lined up a free kick which rippled the top netting. With just 2 minutes remaining, we broke down the left with Marques. He hung it up to the far post where Pablo Felipe rose and the comeback was complete. 3-2. Our part was done, but eyes now turned to Chaves. If they were going to do the impossible, it would fall to Ricardo Santos. So close. That chance at least. The game itself was as one-sided as you could get. Esposito's brace bookended by Rego and Orsnes. And so, we miss out. A valiant effort, but not quite enough. Tanase was sensational in his 5 months with us. Oliveira proved to be a dependable backup. Fiorani was a good tackler, but struggled in the air. Bueno was Bueno, great tackling and progressive. João Pedro Gonçalves was a creative force playing off the left, whilst Carlos Borges was just as creative, but also an impressive goal scorer. Look, it's hard to complain about coming second.
That's what she said.
That's a great achievement for a team like Famalicão, but we got so close. The criticism of Moneyball is always going to be around whether it's suitable for competing at the top, and this is yet another save where we've fallen just short. If you enjoyed this video, please consider leaving a like or maybe even subscribing. And if you want to support the channel further, you can join these wonderful folk currently adorning your screen, either as a YouTube member or as a Patreon. See you next time.